Hey. Didn't see you there. Uh, I have a certain idea floating through my head that I want to lay out to you guys, and we can think about this together because I think it's quite important, and I want to let it. I also question to myself whether it is valuable to be serving, half-cooked cookies. Like that idea. So we'll do this, and then we'll see what I think. Because one thing I admire about creators like Dan Koe and Leo Gura is how they really let their ideas congeal and mature into these fine wines to serve to their audiences. However, in a very different fashion, I'm shotgunning the ideas to you as they come and exploring and brainstorming them. Perhaps I can exemplify the process of maturing an idea in front of you, but I'll reflect and see if I find that valuable. I would personally find that valuable to listen to. For me, the best barometer I find for my own videos is do I enjoy listening to them? And I actually very much enjoy listening to these again. I feel like these videos for me, they act as like an entrainment. Like they engage my brain so that I think along the same thought process that I share on the video. So my first conclusion for that is yes, this is valuable, even though it is the video starts 20% through the ideation process. You can let me know. Let me know if you find it valuable. The title I was considering for this video, and we can discuss through, is for INTPs, input is key. And I have a lot of branching ideas that we can see if we can all put all together by the end of this video. But one thing I can start by talking about is I just finished this book, Psycho-Cybernetics. Highly recommend, by the way. If I were to list like the most influential books that I've ever read, it's in the top 5. What else would I list there? Well, I mean, the books that I've been talking about so recently have been like highly influential. The Structure of Scientific Revolutions by Thomas Kuhn, excellent. That's on my list. I just got Spiral Dynamics there. We'll see what I have to say about that. But The Magician's Way, also excellent. So these books that I've been reading, I highly recommend them. But let's dive into this topic here about how input is king. I assert that an INTP is like an unconscious factory for a certain kind of product, a very different kind of product than other kind of types. So if you're familiar with Tai Lopez, he is I type him as ENFP. He talks about knowledge, right? Reading books. But when you listen to how he reads books, you see that he's looking for a very particular kind of information. And I think of that information as TE information. What are some tactics, what are some tips, what are some strategies I can use next in my life? And so he almost treats each book like a treasure hunt, like he's going to comb through it and find the nuggets that he can use. I instinctively, oppose that, and I mean, if we understand MBTI, naturally I would, because I oppose extroverted thinking, right? And as I've talked about in other videos, what I'm aiming to do, like my main purpose in life, is to create high fidelity, high resolution lenses through which I can see the world and understand what's going on. That's what I aim to do. And thus, doing what a TE thinker's, like reading the way a TE thinker would read is not towards my aim. Like, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not using the book as a map to do anything. I'm building maps. And thus, when I read a book, I read every single word. But not only do I read every single word, I imagine myself in the place of the writer and what their life must have been like and what their experience must have been like to have prompted them to write those words. I mean, for example, Maxwell Maltz. I mean, I looked into Maxwell Maltz here. Smile for the YouTube thumbnail. Maxwell Maltz here. Plastic surgeon, born in about 1877, I think 1877 or so, and he, I think he went to Columbia University, and he was quite a renowned. He was like the head of the surgical department at his hospital. However, and he really enjoyed his work as a plastic surgeon, and so he was skilled in the ways of reshaping people's appearances. But what he noticed as he was treating patients is that a lot of the patients coming in did not have a appearance problem. They had a psychological, spiritual problem that they interpreted as a physical problem. You can imagine, what's an example? I think it's just. I think it's There are often times when someone thinks, like, someone doesn't like a certain part of their body, for example, and everyone else thinks that part of their body is completely fine and it's beautiful. But for that person, it is a problem because they don't like that part. And then perhaps they've, like, as written in this book, perhaps they've built a story around that certain part of their appearance, like oh, people read me this way, oh, I look unlovable. And then if someone comes in and starts to talk to them, the immediate thought that comes to their mind is, I'm unlovable, why are you talking to me? And then their first reaction to this person is almost like a stray, a feral stray dog. Rawr, get out of here, right? And so, I mean, you can imagine that reaction is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm unlovable, can't you see? Here, let me prove it to you. Anyways, Maxwell Maltz notices this, and he starts to realize that he's not just a plastic surgeon. He's almost like a healer of the human soul and a giver of hope to people who feel stuck. And so he expands his practice. He consults people that come into his practice, into his plastic surgery practice, and he talks through these certain kinds of ideas about, like, yes, we can do an operation on you to change certain part of your appearance. However, you can also do a review of your aims and thinking habits in life and see whether those are the source of your problems. I'm struggling somewhat to there's plenty of examples in the book, though. I mean, there was a person that got in a car crash, and he got a scar here that kind of like keeps his eye open, and he has a scar on his cheek, and he was a salesman, and so he felt like people would see him and think he was evil, and so he stopped going on sales calls, and he became a recluse, and he became very angry. Now, what's debatable and is how much of that is true, like how much of his appearance was causing that, and how much of it was self-judgment. And in my personal exploration of, I would say one of the most fascinating topics that I've studied just a decade over is the subconscious mind. I like calling it the unconscious mind. And another term for that is the power of assumption. What's fascinating about like doing a YouTube video like this is I come in with a certain assumption. And that assumption is communicated to you without you even realizing. And you hear the assumption and you feel it automatically. And it's like the underlying layer to our communication. So one assumption that I think is inherent in these videos is like, I think this information is quite interesting and important and useful for you to hear. That's assumption number one. Now, assumption number two, I think people are generally friendly or something. Like you can hear that assumption in how I'm talking. Assumption number three. Well, the appearance of my background is not as important as the content that I'm sharing with you. My earnestness in wanting to share it with you will come through, and you will hear me. Like these certain assumptions. And if I did not have those assumptions and I had a different assumption, you would hear it too. You know, if I heard like people are inherently callous and unwilling to listen, then I'll start by saying like, I don't know why you're. I would say, how would I say something like that? I would say like, if you're still here, I don't know why you would disagree with what I'm about to say. You know, you can hear the assumption, and I'm not directly communicating it, but the ground I am standing on. It's almost like every person walks around with a ground they're standing on, a certain set of assumptions. And simply by engaging with me and communicating with me, I'm encouraging you to accept the same set of assumptions. And the more, perhaps, one theory I have right here is, the more engaging with you with those sets of assumptions, it makes you feel good, and it feels like there's a progress in a certain direction that you want to go. The more you're willing to accept the set of assumptions I've come to you carrying. I find the unconscious mind a fascinating thing. I very much NE'd like through a bunch of points there, but I would not have thought of any of this with such detail unless I had read this book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And that the background, to me, the background of Maxwell Maltz is incredibly important in the story, because without it, like a TE person would be like, okay, well, what does it tell me to do? What are the 10 things to do? Well, everything I just talked about, I said nothing about the 10 things to do. And you know, I'm not discounting the TE perspective. I mean, the TE cannot, especially if you're ENTJ, if you don't have SI in your stack, TE cannot understand like the other person's perspective and how that led to them to make the discoveries and understand like what is their understanding, that they won't be able to, they don't want to see that, and they're not naturally inclined to see that. So that's fine. I'm just saying that especially at INTP, I mean, I'm curious to learn if other types are like this too, that this way of input is highly valuable and natural for me to do, and I don't have to resist that. I mean, so if you watch Tim Ferriss or the Valuetainment or Tai Lopez, and they tell you to read, like, skim the book and look for the tips to do, understand that that's not for you. You're an INTP. Read the words, but don't just read the words, but read the paradigm, the perspective of the words. As I've been saying, like, the lens is you are a lens crafter. You are a crafter of epistemological lenses. Now, to back up, what then is like the material, the substance through which we craft our lenses? And that is input. And the hypothesis emerging for me right now is the higher quality your inputs, the higher quality lenses you can create. So, for example, if the only thing you hear is just hearsay from other people, like, oh, I heard that movie is good. Imagine this. Imagine, the analogy is, imagine you are a movie reviewer. You are a movie critic. But the only information you use to write your movie reviews is other people's reviews. If everyone's like, oh yeah, it was cool, it was fun, yeah, I like that one scene where this happened, you might have some idea, but I doubt, and yes, I doubt that your review will have anything of remarkable insight and anything important to say. You'll say, oh yeah, people thought the movie was good. People thought that movie was fun. But I assert that only if you watch the movie carefully and deeply, and in the manner that engages your entire being, where perhaps you might want to look into, like, for me, I would want to look into how they hired the actor, what the actor was thinking when they were acting it out. Now that I know type, understand, I have a theory about how, certain actors have certain types, and thus they resonate with a certain role, and so they fit really well with the role. But that's the way I would engage with a movie, and it is my job to read the movie deeply and to really embody myself in it. And thus, one thought I was having about input is have as high quality input as I possibly can, and thus I've been buying a whole bunch of books. And I think a TE thinker would generally say, why would you do that? Because, again, their perspective is that's not their focus. They're not here to build lenses. They are here to do stuff out there. And that's completely fine. They will look at books as manuals to extract strategies and actions they can take. But my approach, my understanding of input, is I'm using it to put on different perspectives, meld different perspectives, try them on, dig as deeply as I can into the people, and put them all together, so that I now feel this personal feeling that actually, like putting all of those together, there's something that doesn't quite work. I think it should be like this. And then when I share, I can take that right there, what I've just created, and I can share it with the world. I can share it with you. And for the proper population, that can be incredibly valuable information. I mean, right now, what pops to mind is Albert Einstein. That is essentially what Einstein did. Einstein was, as INTPs typically very much are, stationary most of the time, just sitting there most of the time and imagining and thinking. But what he did was he read widely in the scientific community's current set of problems. And he read about everyone's thought process and conclusions that they made about how things worked. You know, the prevailing theory at the time was that light was a wave, and it was propagated through the vacuum in some invisible substance called ether. And then they said, okay, well, if ether exists, I mean, that's how you can, if we understand that space and time is absolute, and thus light has to travel through a medium, we call it ether, let's try and detect that medium. And the Michelson-Morley experiment was attempting to detect that medium, and they failed to detect it. Einstein absorbed these theories widely through history. One person he highly credits is Maxwell, different Maxwell. What was Maxwell's first name? Anyways, physicist Maxwell, who compiled Faraday's experiments into equations. But Einstein also had to understand the philosophy underlying Newtonian physics and how Newton came up with his physics. And he essentially looked through all of those assumptions. He looked through everyone's perspectives, which is the first principles that INTPs think through. We use philosophy to see the world, and so the philosophy is built, and then on top of that, the science is done. Right? He looked at all that and he said, I think Newton is wrong. I think space and time is not absolute. And the string sticking out of the shirt was when he did the thought experiment about what would happen. Is simultaneity absolute? If I'm standing on one side of a train, if I'm standing on the ground and lightning strikes a train over there, does it look the same as if I'm on the train and lightning strikes me? And that led to, special relativity. But see, this is not, in a way you can say this is not science. That's what's fascinating about physics of the last century is theoretical physics became very important, and in a way you can kind of doubt. Theoretical physics sort of turns the scientific process on its head, because theoretical physics is like imagination first. Of course, you use the data, but you take the data and then you project. You INTP the data. You take everything you have right now and then you imagine ways to draw a line such that everything fits. But the reason why I outlined that is let's remember why I outlined that. Einstein. Yes. So, Einstein is just an example of someone who wasn't there to take action and get things done. He was there for a very different thing, which is, as I said, taking in everyone's perspectives, reading widely, understanding everything, everyone's perspectives and set of assumptions deeply and very well, And from that place, you now have the perspective to create your own novel piece of philosophy, perspective, that a select group of people will find very valuable. I mean, when Einstein published his theories, it took a long time for people to even understand them. So this video, I think, is a bit of a look into the INTP thought process as well, because I think it's much more NE than a lot of the other videos. But the theory I'm building upon right now, and the reason why I'm reading so many books, is because I now understand that this is not a distraction. This is the substance of my craft, of my art. High quality inputs. What's the next book I'm going to read? I think this is the next book I'm going to read. High quality inputs provides me with the lenses that allow me to create high quality outputs. And the outputs is not TE output. It's not getting stuff done. It's not presenting you with products. It is presenting you with higher quality lenses. So that's what I've been working on. And a branching idea that I've been, I will continue to think about it and share with you at a later date, is that I also view, so if you ever heard of Stephen Krashen and Steve Kaufman, they are language learning polyglots. They're aficionados of language learning, and they really stand behind the idea that input is king for learning languages. And I think for certain kinds of people that is absolutely true, and especially for me that is absolutely true, because it all depends on what you view is your aim and what is valuable in life and in learning a language. For some people, they say, why do I want to listen so much? All I want to be able to do is interact with people. If that's what you want to do, then do that. And that aim will direct you and cause you to find everything else meaningful and useful to do. But I don't want to do that. I want to be able to go through in the language and understand everything I can. If so, then input is an excellent aim. Input can be my focus. And what I've found is input naturally leads to output anyways. As these videos attest to, like, reading books causes me automatically to want to share. But the main focus I wanted to get at here is the more I share in this direction, the more I see that so much of the world is not TE, and so many careers are not TE. It's just that the majority of, BS jobs, jobs that you can be hired very easily and they just slot you in, those are TE jobs. And so the majority of people will see everything from a TE lens, and they will work for a manager, and the manager will be TE. But I think that's just one small facet of the world. And there are plenty of TI people out there that enjoy like beautiful careers building lenses. And I wish to continue looking that direction. I wish to build that little niche for myself, or discover it. Examples are, like thought leaders generally. Dan Coe is a great example. and even leaders of tech companies. Leaders of tech companies are people like this. And that's what I'm exploring building. So the focus, the practical step that sticks out at me for doing that is reading all of my books, and reading even more books, and then seeing what that shows, what presents itself to me as the next step after that. Very much Bashar's formula. Follow my greatest excitement. I hope that that excites you. And I'm gonna wrap up the video there for today. And I'll talk to you next time.